Let's get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 Keel.
I love this. We're waiting to be patched.
We're waiting to be patched through to the Speaker of the House.
I love it.
Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson. Thanks
man.
Mike and McCarty. We did get some questions on the Shreveport Security Systems message board that we will get to, hopefully, when we get the speaker on the phone, waiting on Ruben to let us know. Mm-hmm. He's been under some criticism, and I want to address some of that. Speaker, good morning.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I got a two-parter. Let me ask you a kind of a tough question starting off with, because we asked some listeners to submit questions for the Speaker of the House. One is on border security and why you gave in on border security and on Ukraine funding. How would you, I think I know the answer to these questions, but I want you to address those for our listeners.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Look, those are huge bits of misinformation. We never gave in on the border. We've been fighting on it every single day of this Congress. In fact, we've been fighting since Joe Biden walked into the Oval Office and started issuing executive orders to open it wide. In the appropriations process, it came down to a binary choice. We had to, we fought all the way to the end. Remember, we passed H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, which is the most comprehensive border security measure ever passed by Congress. It's been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk in the Senate the whole time. Over a year now, 13 months, it's been sitting on his desk. See, here's the problem, what everybody has to remember. We have the smallest majority in only one chamber of Congress.
Absolutely.
I have a one-vote margin, right?
Right.
So I can pass things in the House, but it doesn't mean it's going to become law, because the progressive Democrats run the White House and the Senate. And so we sent over our legislation. We passed resolutions. We impeached Secretary Mayorkas at the Department of Homeland Security. First time a cabinet secretary has been impeached in the history of the United States. We have been fighting tooth and nail. But the problem was at the very end, when we got down to the deadline of whether to fund the government or not, it came down to a binary choice. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats and Joe Biden dared us. They wanted us to not fund the government and shut it down because they knew it would be blamed on Republicans. It would be very painful to the American people, and then that would make sure that we lost the House majority, the narrow majority that we have in November. We couldn't do that, obviously. We got to grow the majority, win back the Senate, and put Donald Trump in the White House. We're not going to be able to save the country. And so that's what it came down to. Nobody abandoned the border. We're still fighting on it every single day. But at the end of the day, here's the truth. The president has to be, you have to have a president who is willing to enforce federal immigration law. And Joe Biden simply won't. Even if he signed our legislation into law, they'd ignore it. We already know that. So we got to have an election cycle to fix this thing.
On another subject, Israel is under fire today for the attack in Rafah. You invited Benjamin Netanyahu to speak. The Democrats have kind of, I don't know where we stand on that happening. Where are we on that? And what does Israel need to do now?
Well, I forced the hand of Chuck Schumer. I had a letter going back to mid-March to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to come and speak to a joint session of Congress. I think it's very important and historic for him to come and do that, to give us the bird's eye view of what's going on in Israel, to address some of the criticism. I'm a big supporter of Israel, as everybody knows, because I think we have many reasons and obligations to do that. But Chuck Schumer has been trying to play both sides. I mean, the Biden administration not only has projected weakness on the world stage and gotten us into all these hot wars, they've also been trying to appease Iran and criticize Israel. So Schumer was trying to play politics with it. I sent him the draft letter. It has to be signed by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader to have a joint address to Congress. Sent it over to him in mid-March. He's been dithering and not getting that done. So I called his bluff last week, said I would invite Netanyahu myself and just skip over him, send individual invitations to senators to join us if they wished, and all of them would, I'm sure, except for a handful. And so finally he relented. He got public pressure and agreed to co-sign the letter. So that invitation is going out. I expect that Prime Minister Netanyahu will come soon. I'm scheduled to speak with him again in about an hour. by telephone. And when I spoke with him last week, he was anxious to come and speak with us. So I expect it'll happen soon.
Are you concerned about the criticism of Israel that they have violated human rights? Does that trouble you some? That's a worldwide story today.
Listen, the war ongoing should trouble every freedom-loving person around the world. Remember, Hamas is a terrorist organization, a proxy of Iran. And on that fateful day, October 7th, tragic day.
Who attacked Israel first.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everybody conveniently seems to forget this fact.
Right. Raped women and children, cooked infant Jewish babies in ovens. I'm not even going to go into all the details on the radio. It's too horrific to recount this morning. But it was a terrible thing. They killed more Jews than on any day since the Holocaust. They are the aggressors. They are the dark side of this. And Israel is trying to defend themselves and actually defend their very existence as a nation right now. The problem is the terrorists have embedded themselves within civilian populations, and now they're all concentrated in Rafah, which is the southern part of Gaza. The Israeli army is doing a nearly impossible job in trying to rid themselves of the terrorists who want to take them out as a nation. And so it's a very dangerous, serious situation. Civilian casualties have been occasioned there, and it's a great tragedy. I think that Netanyahu himself has lamented that in the last 24 hours. But it's an impossible situation. And what the international community needs to do, including the United States, is not try to micromanage what they're doing there. I mean, for crying out loud, the International Criminal Court, which is a bogus organization, has talked about issuing arrest warrants for the leaders of Israel in the middle of a war. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's madness, and we need to stand by our ally and insist that this be done quickly so that peace can be brought about.
You made the comment just a moment ago, Speaker, that we need to elect our way out of this. The only way we're going to change is to change the administration. One of our listeners says, look, my question is concerning the last election. What are the chances that this won't happen again? Should I be concerned?
That's a big question. Yeah. Well, election security is top of mind for almost every American. I mean, I've been in the last 5.5 months, guys. I've been all over the country campaigning for Republican members and candidates. No matter where I am, the message is the same. America's in decline. The commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, is asleep at the wheel on every major issue. He's been an abject failure. The border, the rising cost of living and crime and our standing on the world stage, all of it. And there's going to be a big wave election. I genuinely believe that. But we've got to be able to trust that it's fair and free and safe. I think it will be. There's been an extraordinary amount of work done in almost all the states across the country to ensure election security. There's a small handful of states that we're watching very closely, but you'll have greater attention paid to that in these jurisdictions than ever before. You're going to have poll watchers and precinct captains and small armies of lawyers ready to litigate if they need to do it. You're going to have a lot of eyes on it to ensure that the abuses of the 2020 election, for example, can never happen again. We're confident in that, and I think it will happen. There'll be controversies, there always are, but I think that you'll have a fair election that can be counted on. You've heard President Trump on the campaign stump the last couple of weeks. His new phrase is too big to rig, right? We have to have an early turnout, a big turnout, I think we will, around the country to ensure that even if there are any hijinks, it's not enough to change the outcome of the election. And one of the big things we've got to do is make sure all these illegals who are in the country cannot vote in that election. And I've been pushing that the last couple of weeks. We introduced legislation to ensure that can't happen, and we'll be passing that to the House when we get back this week.
Speaking of elections, the congressional map in Louisiana, the Supreme Court has ordered Louisiana to use the congressional map with the 2 black majority districts, which means District 6 will stretch from Shreveport to Baton Rouge. How will the folks that live in that portion of Caddo DeSoto Parish ever be represented by a congressman from this area? Is this map the right thing to do?
It's not. Look, it remains my belief that the congressional maps that we have now that were passed under the 2020 census are fully constitutional, and they should be used this fall as well. But the Supreme Court suspended the lower court's decision, and so now we have to fight to win in these newly drawn districts. I don't think these new districts will last more than a single 2-year cycle, but this is what we have. And to your point, Aaron, it's terrible because under this new map, you've got many voters in the Shreveport area and as you pointed out, North Dakota, that they're going to be voting for a congressman that will all but likely reside in Baton Rouge. And that's just wrong. I mean, that's, 4 hours south of us, right? So as the House Speaker, it's my responsibility to do everything in my power to maintain and grow the House Republican majority, and we're doing that. And so I'm trying to encourage all of our colleagues here, my 4 Republican colleagues and friends, to run strong in the new districts and ensure that they can get over the finish line and we can keep our seats, because it's really important. And
how do you, Speaker Johnson, how do you represent from Union Parish at the top of the state to Calcasieu Parish, nearly to the coastline? How can you possibly do that?
Well, over 16 parishes, it's a lot of territory to cover, about a third of the state by land area. But that's the way the districts are drawn. Each of us represent about a little less than 800,000 Louisianians, and that was the way that they apportioned it, and so we do it. We just got to be everywhere all the time. Look, this is really important to think about. We've got a really, really strong congressional delegation in the Congress. There's only 6 of us from Louisiana, 5 Republicans, 1 Democrat. And among our 5 Republicans in the House, think about this. We currently have the Speaker of the House, that's me, the Majority Leader, Steve Scalise. That's the first time in history that those 2 top positions have been elected from the same state ever. We've got a key appropriator, Julia Ledlow. We've got a leader on transportation infrastructure and natural resources, Garrett Graves. We've got a leader on armed services and homeland security, Clay Higgins. I mean, it's an incredible group. And arguably the most powerful congressional delegation in all of the United States. And so it's really important that they all fight hard and win in those districts, and we return that group to Louisiana, because we are punching way, way above our weight limit.
President Biden today, on another subject, is set to announce ways to modernize our electric grid so that we can be ready for clean energy and fewer outages. I hear into this lots of money to be spent, lots of oil jobs to be lost.
Right.
Am I wrong?
Killing the fossil fuel industry.
Am I wrong? What's coming?
Your instinct is exactly right. It's utter madness. If you were going to get out a piece of paper and say, how can we destroy a nation's economy and national security? Let's begin by declaring war on its energy industry, fossil fuels, oil and gas. That's exactly what Joe Biden has done. And this boondoggle about this, radical green energy agenda is madness. I mean, Pete Buttigieg got embarrassed on CBS this weekend because he went into, friendly territory for him and was asked a very simple question. Gee whiz, there's like billions and billions and billions of taxpayer dollars have been devoted to building these like electric charging stations around the country. And you're supposed to build 1,000 of them. And so far, let's see, you built 8 of them. And he smiles and says, it's very complicated. I mean, give me a break. What they're trying to hoist on the American people is something that consumers don't even want. And meanwhile, they are fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine. Because look, every time you pause an export of liquefied natural gas off the coast of Louisiana and Texas, which Joe Biden has done by executive order, you make Europe and all of our allies in the other parts of the world have to go to Vladimir Putin to get their natural gas. I mean, it's just absolute madness. I've asked the president himself about this in the Oval Office. I asked President Biden, why would you do that? And he looked at me as though he didn't realize he had. I think they're giving him executive orders to sign, and he doesn't even understand the implications of it. It is just crazy. And that's why there's going to be a massive change in this election cycle in November. And President Trump is going to bring us back to energy dominance again. That's exactly what we achieved together under his first couple of years in office. We're going to do that again.
Mike, how long have you been Speaker now? How long has it been? Are you counting the days?
Oh, goodness. 6 months. 6 months, yeah. Biggest, like 6 years in some ways. Yeah.
Biggest surprise since you took over?
The scope of the responsibility. I mean, the Speaker of the House in the modern era has an almost impossible scope of things to do. It takes 24 hours every single day. I haven't had a break since October 25th. I haven't been alone since October 25th. It's a full-time thing. I'm not complaining. I'm honored. It's the honor of my life, obviously, and we're in very, very serious times as a nation. I'm very clear-minded and clear-eyed about where we need to go and what we need to do to make America extraordinary and great again. And we're going to do that. But, Newt Gingrich posted an op-ed 2 weeks ago and says, Speaker Johnson has the most challenging speakership since the Civil War 160 years ago. I called him. I said, Newt, is this some kind of twisted way of encouraging me, and we laughed about it. He said, no. He said, did you read the rest of the piece?
Right.
I said, you're doing an excellent job. He said, it's just the job is almost impossible. I said, not impossible, though. We'll get it done.
Have you and Marjorie
we're
Taylor
going through a
Greene
valley.
kissed and made up?
Oh, good grief! You know me. I don't carry grudges. I don't keep a record of wrongs. I went up to her right after her ridiculous tirade and said, you know what? We still got to work together, Marjorie. Remember, I can
We're on
only
the
afford
same
to lose
side.
one vote. We're on the same side, right?
Yeah.
How about training some of that energy against the Democrats? This is all going to work out. I spend half my day as Speaker of the House, and the other half as a mental health counselor. And I sit down with the members, work everybody through their issues. We're going to get this done. We have to deliver for the American people. This is not a game, and the stakes are too high to fool around, and I won't be.
Well, let me put on my dad hat for a moment and congratulate you on your daughter's graduation. One from Louisiana Tech this past weekend. Congratulations.
Brother, we're in the busiest cycle for the Johnson family. Okay, so we had the Benton High School graduation, I think 2 weeks ago for Jack. He's going to the Naval Academy at the end of next month. Abby just graduated Tech. She's going to start law school. And then Hannah has finished her second year of law school, and she's getting married June 8th because we didn't have enough going on in the family, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you break away and get to those
13-year-old.
events? You have to say, look, these are family events. I'm going to be there.
I do. You got to look. I'm a pro family guy. I got to live it. I'm going to be there first. But we're juggling a lot of things right now. But so far so good by God's grace. It's all working out. We're blessed.
Speaker, thank you so much for your time. We're praying for you, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate y'all. Great to hear your voices.
You bet. Thank you, Mike.
Mike Johnson, Louisiana Congressman, Speaker of the House, Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710keel.com.